factors that leads to the development of dark personality traits. One model that explains the development of a dark personality through to a personality disorder is the vulnerability stress model. The model assumes that some people are biologically more vulnerable to developing a mental disorder than others. Genetically inherited personality traits such as strong impulsivity or sensitivity can make a person more vulnerable or susceptible to developing a mental disorder. In childhood and adolescence, stressful conditions such as a negative parenting styles or the death of a parent can further promote the development of a mental illness. If a person also has few positive experiences, few trusted caregivers, and is otherwise exposed to less positive environmental conditions, a mental disorder can manifest itself. The development of certain personality traits and possibly personality disorders is thought to be influenced by genetic components that increase the likelihood of developing certain personality traits. Scientific studies have shown that identical twins have more similar personality traits than fraternal twins. This means that genetic factors influence the development of personality. If fraternal twins were just as similar in terms of personality traits, this would be primarily due to environmental conditions. Nevertheless, it cannot be assumed that a dark personality exists across generations. Not every person with a genetic component for dark personality traits will develop them. Here again, the vulnerability stress model must be taken into account. In addition to the genetic component, environmental influences also have an impact on the development of personality traits. Researchers state that experiences of separation and loss, neglect and abuse in childhood and adolescence can lead to a person developing a dark personality. For example, long-term exposure to abuse or a negative parenting style can have a lasting effect on how a person deals with their own feelings, how they deal with the feelings of others, and how they form relationships with other people. Particularly in people who exhibit narcissistic traits, such as having to constantly place themselves at the center of attention, a lack of emotional warmth, inadequate boundary setting, and the link between success and recognition may have led to the manifestation of these personality traits in childhood. They only received praise, warmth, and love when they had achieved something particularly great and accordingly also present themselves as particularly great or special in adulthood in order to receive recognition. Nevertheless, it must be noted that the development of each person's personality is influenced by their own experiences. Each person has an individual genetic makeup and resilience, which can lead to a person developing a dark personality or depression when experiencing a stressful situation or remaining mentally healthy. Scientists and researchers assume that personality development is not largely complete until the age of 16. The diagnosis of personality disorder, which you will learn about later in this guide, is therefore not given before the age of 16. The dark core of the personality. The dark core of the personality is generally reflected in a person's behavior. The dark core consists of the tendency to maximize one's own benefit without any consideration for the feelings and needs of other people. They take advantage of themselves at the expense of others. They see themselves as particularly important and superior. However, this does not mean that people with a dark core cannot cooperate well with others. In order to avoid sanctions or protect their reputation, they are usually excellent at working with others. Of course, the dark core of the personality is not equally pronounced in all people. Certain dark core personality traits, such as manipulation, lying, or callousness, are also more pronounced in one person than another. Nevertheless, dark personality traits are interrelated. This means that if you meet a person who is very manipulative, it is more likely that this person will also lie frequently. The three dark personality traits are also related to each other. These are narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, also known as the dark triad of personality. You will now get to know these three traits in more detail and also learn how to identify them in people. The dark triad. You may have already come across the term dark triad. These are three well-researched personality traits that have the common goal of achieving their own goals and personal success at the expense of others. Narcissism describes the characteristic of judging oneself as more valuable, more important, better, and greater than one actually is. Narcissists have an exaggerated sense of self-importance, are very self-centered, and stand out due to their exaggerated positive self-assessment. They have little regard for other people's feelings and are quick to hurt others emotionally. They are satisfied with themselves and their lives, but want to